Hi guys, welcome back. This is part 2 of my top 20 queer anime and manga recommendations. So again, I'm going to start out with disclaimers. So number 1, these are all my favorite queer anime and manga recommendations. But they are to my own liking. So if you do not like these type of things, I'm not meaning to offend anyone or say that your beloved anime and mangas are not the best of all time. In fact, if you have ones that you really love, I would absolutely adore it if you guys wrote it down in the comments and gave me recommendations to watch. But, like I said, these are just my own personal preferences, so if they don't gel with you or you absolutely hate some of the things that I like, then please don't leave me in comments. Please just don't watch these anime or manga. This list is my top 10. I prefer out-of-school settings, as well as I prefer really strong plots that often are psychological in nature. So, as the list goes on, some of these are problematic or have very explicit themes in them, and which I will definitely tell you when we get there, but I just want to let you guys know that that is what I like. So if you don't like that, then please keep in mind these might not be for you. This is by no means a definitive list, but these are my personal favorites. So just as I would with books, there might be queer rep in a book that's really good queer rep, but if I don't necessarily like the book that much, I wouldn't recommend it. Just because that one element wouldn't necessarily redeem the whole book if it wasn't to my personal liking. So yeah, with that out of the way, I'm gonna start the list at number 10. And please do be kind. So because I'm just like this, number 10 is 10 count, which if you have heard of it at all, the main character makes a list of 10 items, so I thought it was fitting. Number 10, 10 count. Yeah, anyway, so in this one, we follow Shirotani, who is a secretary for a president of a company, and he is actually misophobic, which means he has a great fear of germs or illness or dirtiness getting on him or being around him. So he constantly washes his hands, he doesn't eat or drink in public, he constantly cleans his surroundings, he won't touch things that other people touched, and he always wears gloves. He is working with the president one day when a biker stops and helps the president from being run over, and that is how he meets Kurose, who is the biker, who also happens to be a psychologist. As their relationship goes on, the psychologist says that he will help Shirotani overcome his illness. So he asks him to make a list of 10 things from the easiest thing to do to the hardest thing to do, and slowly, as the weeks go by, they go down the list. So number 10 on the list is touching a doorknob without wearing gloves and not washing his hands after. So as they start to clear the items, they get closer and closer, and their relationship changes over time. Main characters are both gay, and it also has kink elements, and it also has some problematic elements, which I am going to mention. So as it was going on, it was your typical psychologist helping someone who has a problem, but then the psychologist realizes that as the relationship is growing, he can't maintain his distance, so then he stops seeing him, but then Shirotani begs him to meet up with him again so they can keep going through the list, and things get then very muddy because elements of sadism and masochism get mixed in to the mental illness element. I waffled between being concerned that it was like that and being but if the main character really wants that kind of relationship, then it should be fine. So just know going in that it's a very interesting manga, and it is completed now. I don't believe the last volume is translated yet, but there are 5 volumes translated to English, 1 is outstanding, and then an anime is upcoming, I believe. So number 9 on this list is Ouran High School Host Club, which everyone is probably why? Haruhi, who is the main character, I see her as more of a gender fluid character because she dresses in a very non-feminine way, and she also says numerous times throughout the anime, which I'm going to reference, is that she doesn't care if people think she is a host or a girl. She has completely no ties to gender either way, and I thought that was so awesome that she is really just intent on being the person that she is, and she does not care at all if she is representing as a girl or a boy. If you don't know, the story is that Haruhi goes to this really expensive school. She accidentally knocks over a very expensive vase and her family cannot afford to pay it back. So instead she decides to join a host club, and they said they will take care of the expenditure if she does certain things for them. So she cross-dresses as a boy host for the school, and it's kind of a school secret that the hosts keep that there's a girl in the boy harem kind of deal. So Haruhi's father is actually a drag queen by night. So he is a very out and proud, kind of gender fluid cross-dresser. I loved his character because he is strong in so many ways. When he represents as a woman, a very beautiful woman who has a very like sleek style and is a very strong character, and then at other times he acts like a very lazy, loafish, like stay-at-home dad, but also who will defend his daughter as both a woman and a man. So I just found the dynamics between the parent and the child really, really good. And I think the strength of the father and the different ways that he represents gender carried through to Haruhi. So if you really think about that, I just love that element of the series. So if you're looking for a great parent-child queer dynamic, definitely check this series out. Okay, so number 8 on this is Cowboy Bebop, which is one of my favorite series of all time. We're following a team of cowboys who are essentially space pirate bounty hunters, essentially. And the whole cast is awesome, but the one that I really want to focus on is Ed. Ed is a hacker prodigy from Earth, and she is a female, but she refers to herself as Ed. It is a self-given name. And furthermore, she only refers to herself as Ed, not I. So she says Ed or they or we. So she only speaks about herself in the third person, usually. She is very androgynous and she refuses to conform to like all ideas of gender that there could possibly be, whether it be speaking or dressing, anything like that. And she is shown to be a brilliant hacker and just a great character overall for the series. Ed's own father often forgets the gender of his own child. If you're looking for a great series that also just happens to have a gender fluid character, definitely check it out. Cowboy Bebop is awesome. Alright, so number 7 is Sekai ichi Hatsukoi, which translates to the world's greatest love story. So this is an extremely popular boys love anime and manga. I'm going to talk about the anime. So we're following a main character, Ritsu Onodera, and he wants to edit literature, but in fact he gets stuck in the shoujo manga department, and at first he's bummed about it, but then he realizes that his boss is a brilliant editor, and he wants to learn how to be a better editor. So his boss is Masamune Takano, and it turns out that about 10 years ago, they dated in high school. Both of them had changed their names for various reasons, and they couldn't contact each other, and they broke up, and it leads to them now. So they have a bunch of back history. The boss, Takano, realizes that he still is in love with Onodera, and he tells Onodera, I'm gonna make you fall back in love with me. I'm gonna make you admit that you still love me. And it is kind of this back and forth game of like, he crushed my heart before, I will never love him again. And then the like onslaught of being like working with him and realizing how like great of an editor he is, and also all of his faults, because Takano has so many faults, they both do, that is really great. But the thing about this series that just is my favorite thing is how funny some of these setups are. So because they're in a work environment, and because it's shoujo manga, which is romance manga directed towards a female audience, there are so many instances that come up that are just hilarious, just so funny. And not only does this focus on Onodera and Takano, who are like the main couple, but there's also 3 other gay couples. And actually, Onodera and Takano are both bi, so it is really great rep for that, as well as the other characters fluctuate from being gay to bisexual to being like just questioning in general, and it has a lot of great elements about like friendship and family and kind of workplace etiquette. I love this series the most for how it portrays being gay in a workplace. There's a lot of elements where they're like, don't touch me at work, don't look at me, like what if people saw us, like what would happen, I don't want to be called out at work. And it's these elements that make it a really strong series. So number 6 on this list is Yuri on Ice, and there are 2 that are in my top 10 that aren't necessarily seen as gay canon by Japan. But to anyone with goddamn eyes, it's so canon. So in Yuri on Ice, we follow Yuri. So he decides to start training from a video that Victor had up of one of his songs that he performed to, and that video goes viral. And Victor in Russia, who's feeling very much like kind of burnt out on figure skating, he's not sure why he's doing it anymore, he decides to leave being like a triple gold champion to training this relatively unknown man named Yuri in Japan. So he flies to Japan and he starts being Yuri's coach. So it's essentially the relationship between Yuri, who is the newbie figure skater in Japan, and Victor, his coach. And wow. So if you are going to watch this series and you don't want spoilers, please stop listening to me right now and go to this I'll put here when I start talking about the next recommendation. So there are 3 main reasons why I think that they are absolutely, undeniably a gay couple, and I'm so here for it. So the first one is that their relationship throughout the whole series grows in a way that involves a lot of skinship and a lot of relying on each other and sleeping over and training long hours, and they just come to rely on each other at a level that is, I believe, beyond friendship. So this is debated in Japan. Skinship is a big thing here. Boys hold hands, sit on each other's laps, take naked baths together. It's a very normal thing. And it reads as queer to a Western audience, and I do understand that in Japan, that reason alone would not be enough to make this a gay series. However, my other 2 reasons. Reason number 2, Victor runs at Yuri when he gets a good score at his competition, and he goes like this, and he kisses him. Now in Japan, they couldn't show the kiss, or they didn't show the kiss, because his arm is like this. But it's so very clear that their faces are like this, and then when Yuri is stunned and is like, why did you do that? Victor's like, that's the only thing I thought to congratulate you. It's very clear he's not talking about a hug because he hugs him all the time. It's very clear that it's a kiss. Furthermore, later on, they exchange couple rings. And couple rings are a thing in Asian culture where when you've been a couple for a while, you wear a matching couple ring. Which, in this instance, they exchange it at the base of a church, and there's white doves in the background and the bells are ringing, and then they wear it for the rest of the series, and it's is that not an engagement ring? Is that not? And so many of my Japanese friends have been like, it's not an engagement ring, they're just friends, and I'm like, oh my god, come on. So yes, I absolutely believe that Yuri on Ice is gay canon. You can argue with me if you don't think it is, but I love this series just because of how it portrays friendship and support, and also figure skating. A lot of the figure skating illustration is very beautiful, as well as the world of figure skating in general. You find out a lot of information about how the seating and the competitions work. That's very interesting. So if you're looking for an anime that is both lighthearted and also is kind of a sports anime, then this would be for you. So number 5 on my list is Hybrid Child, and in this one I'm talking about the anime. I have not read the manga. So Hybrid Child is an android that is somewhere between a human and a robot. So they have sentience and parts of them are human, and if they are treated with love and care, they grow up. But if they are neglected, then they'll break down like a doll or like a robot. This is essentially a short story collection where each episode features a different pairing between someone and a hybrid child. By the way, hybrid child does not mean that they are a child. They may be built young and then they grow up into an adult, or they may be built already as an adult. All of the relationships in this are gay, and it is so good. Especially one of the stories just broke my heart into a million smithereens, and I'll never put it back together again, and I was just sobbing. I was just crying, sobbing, and I think it's so beautiful. Oh my god, it's just so good, and I really recommend it. The melancholy feeling of the seasons changing, and also ancient Japan, and just feudalism, and just societal problems between people of different ranks. Yeah, it's so good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I just love Hybrid Child. It's harder and harder to talk about these as we get going because the top 5 are like my 5 favorite queer things of all time. So yeah, I guess we should move on to number 4. So number 4 on this list is Yami no Matsui, which means Descendants of Darkness. And this is the other one that is not gay canon, but, like, watch it for yourself and tell me that that is not gay canon, because so many times, like, it has been, like, I saw a quote once that was like, Descendants of Darkness is a gateway drug to all things boys love and yaoi, because, like, essentially, the 2 main characters, the way that they talk and their dialogue and the subtext is so strong that, oh my god, it's just so strong. And the manga is actually more explicit in these sorts of undertones, but in the anime it's with a bit more of a lighter stroke, if you will. So I should tell you what it's about, I guess. So the series follows guardians of death who are shinigami who basically sort people after they die. So any sort of discrepancy that happens, like if there's a murder or if there's a suicide or if there's a mysterious death or something to do with beasts or agents of darkness, they would investigate the reason why and try to clean it up and sort it and get that person into the afterlife. So we follow Hisoka, who is a very young guardian of death. He's 16 years old, and we are not sure why he has become a guardian of death, and it's revealed that he was murdered. And the reason why he wants to be a guardian is because he wants to find out who murdered him and somehow get revenge. The other person we follow is Suzuki, who is a guardian of death who is very well known for his love of sweet things and kind of the goofy and lazy way in which he goes about his job. But actually he is a very serious person who's very loyal. So as they work together, they come upon a villain who is kind of keeping people from dying, kind of making them zombies, / murdering children. Very problematic. So as it goes on, things just get more and more complicated, and the way that the 2 main characters interact with each other becomes more and more convoluted, and just the sexual subtext of everything they say and their actions and even like their physical body language is so present that, like, I don't know, like, you can't watch it and be like, and not see it. I feel like this is, again, I wasn't sure if I was going to put it on here, but this is the one that I feel like it is so canon, but it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not sealed with a kiss, but like the end will rip you up and tear you apart, and absolutely deserves to be in the gay anime Hall of Fame. Alright, and now we reach my top 3, and I'm just gonna say it here before we get into them. All of them are problematic, all of them have psychological elements and usually like kink themes or something where something could be very triggering for people. So if you are not into darker representations, whether it be violence or sexual, then definitely don't probably listen to these top 3. If this is not something you generally like, just stop here and I'll see you in my next video. But for all of you that are fine with it, then we're gonna move right on to number 3. So number 3 is Maiden Rose, which is a military-focused anime and manga. So in this one, we follow 2 main characters, Taki and Claus. Taki is a Japanese military commander who is also known as the Pure Rose of his regiment, and he is from a very important samurai family. So he is actually going to remain celibate until his marriage, and he's seen as a very pure leader, like the symbol of pure manhood in the military. And Claus is an American soldier who met Taki in childhood and asked him to be his knight. So actually, Claus ends up pledging his life to Taki as his right-hand knight, and he becomes known as the Wild Dog. So their chemistry from the beginning is so powerful, I can't even explain it to you. Like, so they meet again after childhood when they are in war college, and Taki is studying the control of tanks and the formation of armies, and Claus is there to study as well. They just fall in love with each other over time, but they know that it's like totally forbidden because Taki has to remain celibate before his marriage, and he's also supposed to be very pure and not supposed to really have sexual relations with anyone. And on top of that, being homosexual is like super bad and punishable by like so much death. But as they go to war against the other nations, they just rely on each other more and more. And Claus is Taki's right-hand man, and he often like surges into battle to protect him and also like relay information and act as a spy, and things get more and more convoluted. And things that happen in this that are problematic are some forced elements and rape. I really do love this manga. It's one of my favorite of all time, but it has very problematic elements as well as very violent elements because it's focused on war. But if this at all intrigues you, then I really do recommend it. There is a huge fandom for this online, and there are also like chibi reincarnations of them where one is a wolf and one is a kitten. It's just so cute. And yeah, I just love this series, and it used to be my favorite when I was in university, and I actually ended up naming my two goldfish that I had. One was Taki and one was Claus. Like, that's how much I like this series. So I highly recommend it if you can stomach the darker stuff. Okay, so number 2 on this list is Twittering Birds Never Fly. And this is probably my favorite manga of all time. I'm just gonna say it's very explicit, both for violence because it follows Yakuza like gangster dealings, as well as sexually graphic because of the nature of some of the characters. So the main character is Yashiro, who is kind of one of the heads of one of the Yakuza like branches. And Yashiro is known as a huge masochist, and one of the things that he does is he tends to sleep with other people who are more powerful than him in a way to gain power, but he's also very sly and manipulative himself. But he doesn't ever sleep with people that work for him because he doesn't want to use kind of his power to hold it over someone else. He ends up hiring Domeki as a bodyguard, and the thing about Domeki is that he is asexual. So due to a past trauma, he has completely no sexual feelings at all. The tension between Yashiro, who kind of hits on everyone around him, and Domeki, who is kind of his silent bodyguard, who is an ex-cop, is really amazing. And the way that their relationship develops, completely outside of the sexual sphere, despite it being like such a sexual kind of setting due to Yashiro's like proclivities, is a really one of the reasons why I love it so much. Because despite all of the graphic sexual nature of Yashiro's like other relationships and dealings with other people, with Domeki, pretty much because of Domeki's nature, that is not at all how they interact with each other. So as they like grow closer as friends and etc., it's just amazing, frankly, I think. And then also like the Yakuza parts are interesting. And as I said, like this is definitely a very explicit, like violent and sexual manga, and it has BDSM elements as well. So if those are not to your liking, don't read it. It won't be for you. But I really do love this story so much. The author, Ko Yoneda, everything they write is amazing. There are a few other like secondary characters that she has different plot lines with, but I decided not to mention it because I wanted to do like independent works and not mention an author more than once. But I love everything that author has ever done. So if you do like Twittering Birds Never Fly, definitely check out the other ones as well. I highly recommend them. And now we arrive at my absolutely favorite numero uno, number 1 best queer manga anime of all time. For me, it's Ai no Kutabi, which is the space in between or the wedge between, depending on translation. And this is an anime. So the world is a futuristic kind of sci-fi world where the elite are known as blondies, and they kind of rule Tanagura from up in like the tech castle, and then in the slums, that's where like the mongrels live. And Ricky is a mongrel. He is the leader of his gang, and he races motorcycles and also like does petty crime to live. And one day he is kind of getting beaten up, and he is saved by a certain blondie named Iosin Mink. And Ieson is one of the leaders, if not the leader, the most important person up in the higher echelons of society. And as they develop a relationship, it is so twisted and so convoluted that people who watch this, they like either love or hate it. And I just love it so much. Like, I've watched it so many times. So Riki himself is bisexual, and Ie-san, it's not sure, but he's definitely gay, if not bisexual as well. Once they start being together, Riki is kind of submissive to Ie-san because he's kept as his pet, which in this society is the upper blondies can keep kind of sexual partners or secretary partners or furniture, and they are people who are below them in society. But in Ie-san's case, his pet wasn't bred for that life and didn't choose that life. He actually stole Riki from the slums. So Riki hates being like in that society. And as the years pass by, Ie-san lets Riki go back out into the slums, and then something happens and Riki returns to him. And from then on, you're never sure if what is happening is because Riki loves him like wholeheartedly or consents, or if he's drawn back for other purposes. You're never quite sure the like motives behind either of their relationship. For me personally, I just love the ending. The ending is so spectacular that even if you're unsure of the motives like throughout the whole series, the very end solidifies it for me and like is concrete evidence of why I love it so much. So if you're looking for one that is set in the future and it's kind of a sci-fi take on it and has like motorcycle gangs and futuristic tech, then I really, really recommend it. Of course, it's my favorite one of all time and I love it so, so much. Yeah, so this finishes up my top 20 queer recommendations. If you guys like any of these or have questions or are gonna watch them or love them, then please let me know in the comments. It would be awesome to like chat to you guys about that. I hope that you enjoyed this video. So if you did, please give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. It would really mean a lot. And without further ado, I'm gonna say toodles for now. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a lovely day and I will see you later.